Practice problem 4.2 is in millimeters, medium difficulty. Yeah, not too bad. Part's origin is located as indicated is symmetric. So symmetric front to back, left to right. The origin is at the center of the lower hole. So all sketches should be fully defined: lines, center lines, circles, arcs, sketch fillets, extrude boss, extrude cut. So would like you to pause the video, take a good 30 seconds and just stare at this thing. The geometry is not real complicated, but there's really only two choices of where to start. So thinking through the process and getting into that mindset that as you analyze these, we can either draw this side shape and then use this geometry to cut through, but then we don't really get the countersinks. We do need to introduce the hole wizard at some point, but I think on these we're just going to stay with the chamfer. So my strategy looking at this would be to draw this front. We're going to get the most geometry because it's symmetric. I can pretty much draw one side, or at least I'm assuming I can draw one side, and then mirror over the geometry. The arcs are kind of a toss-up. If I go center arc, I could go ahead and do the full arc, and then it would be the line, the arc, the line, and then the blend that I'm mirroring. So different ways to make the approach, and until you get into it and see what how it progresses, there is always room to make those changes. So let's open up our millimeter part. We're going into the front plane. We'll go ahead as a reminder that the origin is that bottom hole location. So let's go into the dimension, and that is a radius of 20. All right, because it's symmetric and I have put my reminder in place, let's go center line, vertical, infinite length, and we're going to attach that to the origin. And if it doesn't highlight in blue, I'm just going to try to drag it away because that usually snaps it back into place. Don't really know why that happens, but it's a pretty regular occurrence. So I would like it to be fully defined, and chances are if I just let it go, it would define itself at some point. But it annoys me enough that I go ahead and do that. All right, so center point arc. We're going to pick the center line. When you see these dashed lines, it's asking for something else. And again, if it doesn't go the way you want it, keep going, keep rotating until you get the desired result. So this is a left click, hold down. If it's click, click, you can just keep dragging until you get the desired result. All right, so I'm looking for a tangency, watching those inference lines. So the yellow is really light, but on your screen you should see the yellow dashed lines, and as it brings up and it makes that snap, then the yellow box for tangency appears. Let's see, we're given a radius of 10. It doesn't really go to a point, so let's go to the continuous arc, and then we'll look for tangency again. And looking back to the tangent. And if we stay tangent, then it's a little trickier because I need to bring that center point back and get it coincident with my geometry. All right, so at this point, let's go ahead and put in the second circle. They are both 20. So the choice is I could add a second dimension if I think there's a possibility that this is going to change. If the pins or whatever going through there is always going to be the same, then we'll set a relation to make it equal. Worst case, I go remove the equal relation and we get a dimension in there that's independent. All right, so I did the select, control select, control select, and control select one more time for the mirror. All right, and that would give me the instant result. If I go to mirror entities, I can see the preview. So that is an advantage of selecting the command. Make sure that you jump down to mirror about and then you'll see the preview, and if that's what you want, then go ahead and accept it. And are those attached? Yeah, that looks pretty good. And that one missed because my arc did not quite go all the way, so I'm going to make sure it goes to coincident or concentric, whatever that one was, and then the area goes fully to gray. Now this one doesn't have a dimension, and I want to check and make sure that I did get concentricity between the arc and the circle, that when I drag they move together. And it doesn't have to move a whole lot, we just observe how the geometry is reacting as we make that small movement. All right, so let's get the 90 degrees in there. Any two non-parallel lines are going to generate our geometry, and 60 degrees at the base. And oh yeah, we're still in dimensions, so I don't need to get out of that. Let's just keep going with the 20 millimeters on the bottom, radius of 25 on the top. And now it's just a process of elimination. Radius of 25 or diameter of 25? Wow. Okay, we'll go with this for now, but I'm thinking that's a diameter all of a sudden. So we'll see what the value is. But this will be a good chance to make adjustments, make corrections as we go. Maybe not 10. Let's try 100. So I'm just double clicking on the dimension again to get it to allow me back into that that text box to apply the geometry. So what are we missing? Let's go ahead and fly this back in here. We have the radius of 20, 60, 10. Then chances are, if I have everything else, I'm probably missing a tangency somewhere. So let's go ahead and check for tangencies first. Oh, still in dimension. Let's go ahead and get out of that. Escape on the keyboard a couple times. I have tangent, and then those are symmetric. And then we have symmetric. Now I drew it from this side, so I have tangent and tangent. So it does not appear that there's any vertical. I have the radius of 30, the 100, the radius of 25, 20. So the risk that I usually have of making assumptions that this endpoint is going to be horizontal to the geometry, since nothing else is available, that gets me to fully defined, and I just have to make a mental note that I did that if there is a problem, that it probably has something to do with that blend. But let's go with it for now until we find better information. And then, because this is at the center of the part, we're going to go select our end condition to be midplane, and then 45 millimeters. All right, from the right plane, again, we'll be sketching through the middle of the part. And let's go with a rectangle. And I think I just want to do the corner rectangle. And we'll bring that up and just make sure that you're not inferring any relationships that you don't want. Now this bottom is an arc, so I'm looking to see that little, I wish it zoomed up a little bit more, but it's kind of flickering for on my screen, the silhouette edge. And what the silhouette edge is, where that right plane crosses through that arc. There's one solution for an arc and two solutions for a circle, top and bottom, side to side, whichever we're working with. So let's go ahead, and we're given 25 millimeters for the width. And since I rotated out to be able to see that, I'm going to go, Control 3 works, Control 4 would probably have been better. I want to select the midpoint. All right, so just right-clicking on the line, selecting the midpoint, Control select the origin, and those become vertical to center it. And then our overall height is 92. And doesn't look like it's going to interfere with any of the geometry, so we could either put the fillets in before or after they are radius of 10. And we're going to select, and I could have hit the check mark there, but on the right mouse button, but I usually forget that one. So, all right, so that gives you one. I am going to mirror, so let's go ahead and put in the center line. I was debating whether to put that in as a separate feature, but since they're going to cut through, and I could have used the center line to position this lower midpoint as well. All right, so let's go ahead and get our first bit of geometry in. Watch out for those midpoints. I always like selecting them. Up to the coincident, back over. And looks like it's just going to go right into the tangent arc and into our geometry. All right. So, adding dimensions, we could go ahead and mirror this. Occasionally, there are chances that the mirror does something strange. Usually, a best bet to fully define before the mirror. I'm doing the diametral, so I picked the center line and the vertical line and went to, in this case, the left, the opposite side of the geometry, and oops, read the 12 wrong anyway. So let's go ahead, and that's still highlighted, so I'll just hit delete on the keyboard. So jump to the midpoint, so escape one more time, and escape to get out of the diametral, and then 12. Okay, that looks better. And then radius of 10, and then our overall height of 65. Interesting. So 92, 65, got a little bit of an overlap there. All right, so the geometry, we have to make a decision which way to go with this. Let's at least bump it up enough to where it won't cut this thing into 3 pieces. All right, it's pretty thin through there, but yeah, 92 for the overall and 25, 65, and 12. Okay, well, so we'll go with that, and if I'm missing something, we'll correct it. We'll correct it later. So 20 on the bottom, the 25. You know, I think the going to, yeah, that might not be so bad with the chamfer in place, but 20 on the bottom, 20. Okay, I'm trying not to overthink it, but I'm doing a pretty good job. So let's go ahead and this time I'll do a select change just because I want to throw this other geometry in. If I window pick, I could get that. I could also do the control selects, but you have these tools, so definitely just push buttons and get a feel for using them. All right, so I did the select the center line, mirror immediately. Let's go ahead and extrude cut. And we're going to stay with the through all both. That was what I did on the chisel looking thing. And that gives us our geometry. So it is interesting. Oh, the radius of 10 was on the, okay, that makes sense now. Radius of 10 was on the interior. It was pointed to the other one. So let's go back into that sketch. Yeah, it's a little bit thin for a cross section. And right click and edit sketch, or if we're in the feature, we want to go to the second and edit sketch. And then it'll go normal too. So let me double check which radiuses I'm looking at. So the radius of 10, I got those backwards. So let's go 25. And then if we go back to the 65, that still seems a little thin to me, but I probably missed a dimension somewhere else too. So we'll stay with that for now and go ahead and accept. Yeah, that's a little strange. Okay, so our radius is, I'm going to bypass the context select and just go ahead and grab all of those. And when the pop-up for after the selection, I will look for the chamfer, and that chamfer is called out as 4 times 5 millimeters by 45 degrees. And we go ahead and accept. Yep, those are definitely interesting. So let's go with our, might as well go ahead and save it. We're going to go 4-2. And then we have 22 or 226, 455 for the volume. And I'm at 162. So yeah, there's definitely some thinner cross sections there. As usual, I'll go back and look at it. But we've created the geometry at this point. If I find errors in the things I've selected, I suspect that there might be the issue with this horizontal relation. But still, at this point, I don't have better geometry. And looking again at the drawing, the center point is along that extension line, so that's the best information I got. All right, well, we'll keep looking, and then we'll go to the next one. Okay, I think I discovered the double arrow in the bottom left for that 20 is not the radius. It is the distance between the hole and the outer. So let's try that once again. So if I go back into the to the sketch, we need to find this radius of 20, and delete it is going to be the best way. I don't have any way to drag that, or not conveniently anyway. So our radius of 10 goes to radius of 20, and that bumps it up, makes it quite a bit bigger. And then that that additional 10 millimeters makes those cross sections. So little tricks and traps that are gonna catch up to you. Let's go back to the mask properties, and we're at 226, 455. So how about that? All right, so now we'll finish this this up.